Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan, a student reporter with Invention Convention Worldwide, and today I'm with Madeleine Key, Director of Content at inventRight.
Hi, Jonathan. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Great, thank you. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do at inventRight?
Sure. What I do at inventRight is create educational resources about the product licensing process, and I use social media primarily to distribute those. Really, what I see my role doing is giving inventors the information, the advice, the support that they need to learn how to license their ideas and unleash them on the world.
Awesome. So what is licensing?
Licensing you can think of really simply as renting. If you have a lot of ideas, if you don't necessarily want to start a business, which requires, maybe raising capital, writing a business plan, figuring out manufacturing, but you want to see your ideas on the market where they can help and benefit other people, licensing is a process that allows you to do that because you're really forming a partnership with a company that is already in business. So they have the distribution figured out. They have the manufacturing figured out. But what they don't have are an endless source of creative new ideas. And that's where the inventor comes in and supplies that originality, that spark that they don't have at their company.
I've got you, right. So it brings something new to the table.
That's right.
I love it. So say that, I want to go to a big corporation and I'm just one person. I like my idea and I think it can do well and people need it, but it can be scary talking to this giant company. What advice would you give people when they feel that way?
It can definitely be scary. I think that's a totally natural reaction.
Right.
I think there's a lot of things going on at play there. I think there's a different process that you would want to use to get into a big company than maybe a smaller company, and it's worth spending some time researching that. But I also think you want to remember that all great ideas came from individuals. So maybe you're just thinking, I'm just this one person, but your small size is actually a strength. You can be nimble, you can be quick, you can reiterate, you can outthink that big company that has to, correspond with 30 different employees to get one decision made. So I think people don't understand the power that they have actually as solo inventors. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be straightforward, but it is possible.
Absolutely. And so going to a company with my invention, does it need to be this super fancy, spend thousands of dollars on a well-made prototype that functions in every way? Or what should I take to a company?
I love this question because people think that they really need to have everything fleshed out and finished before they begin a dialogue with a potential licensee, and that's not true. What happens with most ideas is that they're refined and changed after they're pitched. So if you've spent all this time and all this money saying, this is exactly perfect, that's probably not the best use of that time and that money because they're going to have some feedback for you. Maybe they need the product to be in a different size. Maybe it's too heavy and it needs to be redesigned so it could be shipped more easily. So what I would tell people is think of yourself as building a relationship. Who do you want to invent for? What are the companies that respect inventors and whose products you like? And can you form a relationship to learn what they're looking for and to sort of maybe apply that to what your designs are or your own invention?
Right. And that's great. It sounds like anybody, whether you're young or old, anyone can pitch an idea. So that's really cool and I like that. If I have an idea and I'm not sure, maybe I want to approach a company, but I'm worried I don't want them to steal my idea. They have all these resources. How can we negotiate with that, or what steps can we take to prevent that from happening?
That's a great question, and I think on the minds of every inventor is that fear. And that fear is warranted, I think, to some degree, but I also feel like there's a lot of other elements that are coming into play. So I would approach that question from a couple different lenses. I would say, first of all, I think the best antidote to fear is education. So really learn what to expect about this process, because inventors have maybe some unrealistic expectations. And so get the information that you need, prepare yourself that way. Then I would really recommend that they study this tool called the Provisional Patent Application. So you don't need to approach companies without any protection. What you can do and what we at inventRight would recommend is to file a PPA, which you can write on your own, which is affordable to file. You're going to want to study how to do that and the right approach. But this allows you to contact companies while describing your invention, your idea, as patent pending. Another important part is that different companies have different perspectives on the values of ideas and inventors. So before you reach out to any company, you're going to want to do some research. You're going to want to say, is this company inventor friendly? You're going to want to research, what does that even mean to be inventor friendly?
Right.
But there are absolutely companies out there that respect inventors, that value your ideas, that are not going to steal them from you. Because what happens if they stole an idea from an inventor, they're drying up their source of ideas. That's not a good long-term strategy. That's a short-term terrible choice.
Right, right. And like you said, it's building a relationship with the company. And so a relationship goes both ways. So the company wants it and you want it as well. But if they steal ideas and break off that relationship, then right, they have no source of creativity, that spark like you mentioned. That makes a lot of sense.
That's absolutely right. And I think that there's that question of, was my invention stolen? It's such an emotional feeling. I hear all the time an inventor said, I had this idea, I talked to this company, and then it's on the market. Realistically, there could be some other things at play. The company could have been working on something similar. Maybe they'd been pitched a similar idea before. And I think there's a bit of a default for inventors to get a little paranoid, to be very afraid. And so with education, with experience, you can mitigate that fear a little bit.
For sure. And just thinking about whenever I've invented things, I often think of them as like my children. Like, oh, I love this. This means so much to me. People should absolutely care about their inventions, but if they have an idea, should they cling onto it or know that more will come and just create as many as they can?
That's such a good question. One of the slides during my presentation listed, what are the things I think you need to become a successful inventor? And some of those things are a little bit in tension with one another. You need to have faith, you need to be persistent, but you also have to be flexible because not all ideas are destined to become products.
Right.
And if you're a creative person, you're going to have another great idea. And so that's a difficult question to flesh out of when to move on, because I've met some inventors who labor for years and then their product is a big success. But then I meet some that I want to encourage them to maybe set it aside, to work on something else, to think of themselves as an inventor in the broad sense, not just as the creator of this one thing that they've now spent a lot of time and energy in. And it gets hard to move on after you've done that. You really want it to work. So, I think your perspective on you can create more and create again and to embrace that process is the right one.
Absolutely. Awesome. So say somebody's like watching this video right now and they're like, I have an idea, but I don't want to start a company. And they just learned about licensing. They want to do a quick check to see, this might be a licensable, or this is a product that I could license, or maybe it not be so good. Like, how do you know if an idea or a product is good to license or not?
That's such a good question, because not all ideas are a great fit for licensing. I think something that's important for licensing is being able to demonstrate it to some degree, because when you're approaching companies, you want to be able to visualize your idea and have them be able to understand it relatively quickly. So if you're working on a really complex project or topic that might not be appropriate for our licensing process, I think first you're going to want to study the market to say, does this already exist? Are companies making similar products like this? People will think, oh, if it's similar, that's my competitors. But that's not quite right. That's actually your potential licensees. So if there's room for improvement in a category, that's a good sign it could be a fit for licensing. I think if you want to visualize and even go down to the store and kind of study the product aisles to say, okay, how might I invent something that would go here? That's probably licensable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And if I have an invention that I haven't seen it in a store, but it's in line with with what a company wants to do, but I don't know if people want it. Like, I know that I would use it, but I don't know if other people would.
Yeah.
What are ways that I can test to see like the market wants this or the market needs this?
That's such a great question, and one I want inventors to think about a lot, because I think finding and having those relatively simple ways of testing are really important. We look actually at the 10-step process of licensing an idea as a test in and of itself, because you don't have to spend a lot of time or money to make a sell sheet, to reach out to companies, to get a little feedback. If they all get back to you and say, we're not interested, that's a way of testing the market. But there are others. You could create a survey and distribute it. For one of my dad's products, he was able to make some simple prototypes and created a little display. And when people would come into that music store, they'd fill out a little kind of thing. Which one do you like the best? Would you purchase this? And
Right.
that'll give you a sense. I think one of the more elaborate ways of testing the market, arguably, could be with Kickstarter. What I see people doing more of is almost launching nearly finished products. But
Right.
if it was a little earlier in your journey, that could be a way of saying, okay, what do I have here? Am I making pre-sales? But licensing is low-hanging fruit in terms of getting that test in and of itself.
For sure, and I love that. Awesome. And so you're here at the U.S. Nationals Invention Convention. What are you doing here?
I'm here unbelievably because I was invited to speak, but also because inventRight is giving away 3 awards this year.
Wow.
The Licensing Potential Awards, and we're so proud because we know that student inventors are thinking about what they're going to do with their inventions next. They want to keep at least some of them working on them, or maybe they think they've got something that they want to show to others, and that's what the Licensing Potential Awards will do. They'll receive a year of inventRight membership. They'll work with an inventRight coach to learn the process.
Incredible.
And we try to have all of our students that go through the program reaching out to companies within about 45 days.
Wow.
So we want people to hit the ground running, to get that feedback, to realize this is real and their ideas matter, and they can start conversations about them.
And I love just the speed of it. Like, it's not like you don't spend a ton of time dwelling on it, but no, you get the idea out, you communicate it in some way, whether it's a prototype, sell sheet, and you get it to the companies to see how it could do. And so that's incredible. Like, what's it been like to be here and talk with student inventors?
Talking with student inventors is the best thing ever. And I've been totally blown away. I think we have these weird ideas about some information is age appropriate, or, I had a question about, like, okay, licensing, I know this is a group of inventors, but are they really going to be interested? Will this resonate? And any expectation that I had has just been exploded. And after my first talk, and maybe I went a little light on some of the information, and 2 fourth graders came up and were like, well, we have this invention about a pencil and an eraser. Do we contact the pencil companies or the eraser companies? And that really told me, okay, you need to lay it all out because they are ready to go. They're so full of enthusiasm. They're so full of passion, and I just come away feeling full of hope and really that I can't imagine there's more meaningful work to do.
Absolutely. I love that. So, wow. There was one more that I had, but I lost it because that was such a good answer. I was just like, I was like focused in on that. So if they're an inventor who had an invention and they want to license, but they're scared or don't know what to do, or it just seems like a daunting process, or even an adult, what advice would you give them to get started?
Great question. I think I know actually that there's a lot to learn about this. So what I would recommend is get started learning now. It's going to take some time to find the right resources, to contact enough sources, to get really a grip on this process, because it requires the process of commercialization requires a lot of different steps, a lot of areas of expertise. No one person has all this information, so you're going to be piecing it together and stringing it along. And I would also say, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Reach out to your fellow inventor. Reach out to organizations like the Henry Ford and Invention Convention and the USPTO, who exist to help inventors. You will find that there is more support, more resources. There's a lot of, from the legal field to government, people want to help independent inventors. They see the value in it. So don't rush. Don't do anything out of fear. Educate yourself, find your community, and don't give up.
Right, and I absolutely love that. And one of the big takeaways I'm taking away from that personally is, as a single inventor, I'm still a person that can create change and companies want to talk to. I'm not too small for them to notice.
100%.
And my inventions are certainly not too small for them to notice as well and potentially license. So thank you for that.
Well, I think there's this missing gap where we see these products that we love and that are innovative and are revolutionary, or these medical technologies, and they're not tied to the person's names who came up with them, right?
Right.
It's a big brand, it's a big company, and we lose that tie to the person. But it
Exactly.
was a person who
Right.
had an idea that contributed, maybe many persons. And so, yeah, I think as a solo inventor, you have to have that belief,
Absolutely
even if
right.
you're not sure yet, but you're gonna learn.
For sure. And oftentimes, whenever I'm pitching to these companies, like showing my invention, but also showing my story and the background that led me and the inspiration that led me to create something, is that often helped me become more effective and showing the usefulness and why the world needs it, but just having a successfully licensed invention in general.
I mean, I think you're talking about storytelling a little bit, and I think that
Yes.
people listen and relate more to stories, they remember them than anything else. And I think that's partially inventors' superpower. I do a lot of work in marketing and communications,
Right.
and someone's going to be so much more interested to learn about a product. Okay, who really cares? But a person and
Right.
the backstory and their journey, because every inventor has struggled, every inventor has
Yes.
had to overcome obstacles.
Right.
That's interesting. Like, people are going to want to know that story. So I would also say, document your journey, take photos, write notes, keep a journal, so
Right.
later when you have a successful product, you can share about that.
I love that, absolutely, because it's not just the outcome, but it's the journey to get to the outcome, and that's
Yes,
just as important as the final outcome.
probably more important. Yeah.
I like that. Absolutely. Well, Madeline, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course. And on behalf of Invention Convention Worldwide, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.